Oh my goodness. I'm just gonna make sure that we're live and share it, and then we can start. Let me see. Just make sure we're live. Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Yes, we are. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yes, we are. Thank God. Hi guys. I hope everyone is okay. Um, and hopefully today we'll have, figured out how to use this new system here. So, for those who don't know me, my name is Harriet Rhoda, and I am the founder of Her Story Matters, and also the founder of Women in Leadership Conference. So we've been having this panelist discussions to talk about different areas in leadership and to demystify leadership. And the topic obviously is geared towards future leadership, where we are all going. I feel like the world is really changing. And as women, we have a great responsibility to step into those places of leadership so that we can kind of like help steer this world into a better way. And also helping women recognize their leadership abilities, because sometimes when you hear about leadership, it's been made into something so corporate that it looks like it's not reachable, but in reality we are all leaders in our respective areas. So I have different guests, and today I've got amazing women coming in. We've got Caroline, who's not in here yet, but she's going to be coming in, and we also have Ada, and we have Eva. I continue, I just want to kind of like share a little bit about women in leadership. We have a conference coming up next month, and we're running it over 2 days, and it's going to be more of a workshop based conference because it's online, and we've got amazing topics. So we'll put the link of the conference down as well, and we'll be talking more about that conference in the weeks to come before the event, so that you can be aware of the event. And we're also welcoming, this time we've opened up so that women who are from disadvantaged backgrounds will be able to have access to the leadership teachings and the exercises, because we feel like we need to give every woman an opportunity to be able to better herself. So we've got sponsors, and Eva is one of our sponsors as well, and Ona, who was in the panel last year. And we're also having more sponsors coming on board, sponsoring women to be able to attend. So if you're able to sponsor a woman, let us know. And if you're someone who would love to come for the conference but can't afford it, send us an email, and we'll get you on board. There's no way we should leave any woman, girl behind. So that's my plug. I'm going to allow ladies to introduce themselves, and I can already see that we have, I call her my twin. Her name is Niger. And she's in the States. So if you're coming in, let us know where you're watching us from, so that we'll be able to have an awareness of where you are. Please give us your questions. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to know what you think of the topics. We'd love to know what is in your mind about leadership and any other areas you'd like for us to cover. So I'm going to unmute the ladies so that they can introduce themselves, and then we can begin. So I'm going to start with Eva. Eva, you can introduce yourself, and then we'll go to Ada. We are muting ourselves so that we don't have the bounce back, because we had that a lot last time. So it's going to be a bit awkward trying to transition, but please bear with us. It's going to be amazing. So I'll allow the ladies to introduce themselves, and please share this broadcast. And as they introduce themselves, I'm going to be sharing the broadcast, so I'm not disengaging or anything, right? Okay, I'll leave.
I'm excited about this. I love the topic. I think it's loaded and there's a lot to say. My name is Eva Risani, for those of you who don't know me. Most of you know me under my married name, Eva Nkoulou Ella as well. I am an entrepreneur. I am the founder of Transcentral Pty Limited. It is a company specialized in language services such as translations, interpretations, voiceovers, and many other things. And I'm also the co-founder and initiator of a non-profit organization called She Phoenix Femme Phoenix that aims at empowering teenage mothers and girls all around the world, just to so that they know that they are able to step into their greatness, they are able to become whoever they want to become, and that they are not defined by their circumstances or their past, but rather by everything that is coming their ways and everything they can attract to them. So it is my pleasure to be here today. I see myself as a leader. So it's not the first time I talk about leadership, but I like the way you put the topic together. So I think it's going to be challenging and very, very enriching. So thank you so much for having me on your platform. And I look forward to a great, enriching, fruitful hour with you guys.
Thank you so hi everyone. So I hope you can hear me well. So thank you so much, Harriet, for having me on the platform. I know it's gonna be an amazing experience, and thank you for the work you do. Thank you for what you're doing for women. Um, my name is Adobe Ezadum, and from Nigeria. We know what's happening in Nigeria right now. My heart goes out to all all of us in Africa who are in this together for bad leadership. And we're talking about leadership today. So there's no better time to actually mention what bad governance is, and what it does to leadership. Um, who am I? I like how Harriet said she will introduce us, we should introduce ourselves. So I am the one who actually had an encounter with fear a few years back, and it launched me into something purposeful that started helping me reach out to every other woman, Africa, Caucasian, whoever you are, to understand that fear can actually be channeled into something useful and is no longer supposed to be seen as a monster or an enemy. That's why I got the term fear strategist. I'm also the founder of Wise Women Platform. I used a Latin maxim for that, empower sapien Muller. So we focus on the girl child and the women, any woman who has gone through trafficking, who has gone through any domestic violence, any woman who has gone through stuff that has actually made them silenced. So we kind of reach out to every other kind of woman out there through advocacy and then through government sponsorship and every other thing we can lay our hands on to be able to make them understand that they are still included and what you've gone through shouldn't, turn you around to make fear torment you and dominate you. So overall, I'm just that woman who believes that leadership first starts with me. Thank you, Harriet, for having me here.
Thank you so much, ladies, for availing yourselves. I'm going to ask those who are watching this to give us feedback. I'm not sure if you can hear us clearly. I can hear everyone, but I would like to know if you can hear us before we begin. So if you could just let me know if you can hear us, please, before we start, just to make sure that we're coherent and our network is okay before we begin, so that we can have the best experience on here. I'm waiting for you guys. Can you hear us okay? Can you see us okay? I know my internet keeps on playing up a little bit. I do apologize for that. I don't know what it is. Every time I come in, my internet is great, but once I log on, it's like everything just goes haywire. I'm waiting on you guys. Please let me know if you can hear us okay. Can you hear us okay? Just gonna a few more seconds. Are we clear? Can you hear us? Okay, I'm going to assume that you can hear us, right? Should I assume that you can hear us? Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm just waiting on you guys. Please let me know if you can hear us. Okay, so Caroline has just joined us. I'm going to let her introduce herself before we start. Yeah, can you hear us? Okay, cool. You can. Thank you so much, Twin. Thank you, Salome. So I'm going to bring on Caroline to introduce herself before we start, and then we'll just dive into the questions real quick. Caroline.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. I hear you
Yeah, we
perfectly.
can. All right, fantastic. I just
Caroline,
wanted
we can hear
feedback.
you.
All right, fantastic. I just wanted feedback. Yeah, my name is Caroline Namugambi. I'm an African, Ugandan, raised in Britain. I'm also a founder of a couple of businesses. I'm a founder of Think Tank 720 and also a CEO for Above Management and also a co-director for Roots to Young Minds. I'm a profession, I'm a psychologist by profession. I'm also a Mackenzie friend at law, so I represent people in courts with knowledge of law. I'm also an author and a multiple award winner. My book is on Amazon. You can obtain that on Amazon, and that's about it about me. Hello. There's a delay in the sound.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Caroline. So we have to mute people when they're speaking to avoid the bounce back. Thank you so much, Caroline, for that introduction, and we'll just dive right in. And today we're looking at two different topics, and they're very deep topics. We might not be able to finish them today, and we're going to dive in. Into challenging traditional leadership paths and behaviors. And one of the things we do know about leadership is it's very defined in certain ways. If you ask anyone about leadership, they'll have this very structured way they look at leadership. And we're here to demystify it and talk about what leadership looks like to us. So I'm going to start with Ada to tell us what she thinks leadership is to her before we start talking about challenging traditional paths and behaviors. So we have to understand where each person is coming from in terms of how they view leadership. So I'm going to ask you, Ada, to kind of like just tell us what you see leadership as, and then I'm going to have Caroline go next, and then I'm going to have Eva go next, so that we have kind of like a synergy and a clear way of going through this.
Thank you so much, Harriet. So leadership, we all hear about leadership, and right from growing up, we kind of have a big picture of what leadership is. Yes, I'm going to deal with that before we get into the traditional aspect of it, or how women have been relegated to the background for leadership. So for me, leadership, studying Maxwell, I kind of agree with him when he says leadership is influence, and he says leadership is everything. I kind of agree that with Stedman, I think that's his name, right? Who also spoke on identity leadership. I kind of agree with them that leadership also starts with you. It's about who you are. It's about understanding your person, your purpose, understanding your dynamics, understanding particularly what your life is all about and what you're doing here. So leadership cuts across everything in life. And leadership, like Master said, is also influence. If you're not able to actually make someone else, persuasively or indirectly do what you want, then you have not understood who you are. Because if you've not been able to develop yourself to understand that leadership is actually your ability to be able to influence things or influence people around, then you're still, maybe far from what leadership really means. So like Maxwell said, leadership is about influence. And to me, leadership is about impact. That's my personal view. If I'm not able to impact someone else, then I can't be able to lead them. So I let Caroline take over. Yeah.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I believe the question was about. The question was about leadership. There's sort of a delay in terms of when people are passing over the mic. But I think, is it my turn now?
Yes, it's your turn, Caroline. I will speak after you.
So the question was, what do I believe leadership is? So from if that's the question, what I believe leadership is, in my own opinion, as being a leader myself, is the fact of having character, discipline, integrity, and identity, right? And I believe leadership starts from, there's different perspective of leadership. By the way, you can be a person of influence, but you're not a leader, right? You might have influence, but you don't have that leadership skills to impact somebody. Following on from Ida, what she said, right? When you have character and you have integrity and you have identity, knowing who you are, all these perspective of leadership stem from a home where you was raised. For example, I saw these tools through my upbringing. Like my mother, as a woman, she was a leader in her household and she carried these tools. So for me, that is that is what's carried me through the leadership that I'm in now. It is having the character, which is something that is learned through different environmental factors, and through different people that are your role models, and the ability to have integrity, right? That integrity, that you have a responsibility and accountability to sort of impact someone's life and lead them in a way that they're learning something. So and that's what I believe leadership is. So I'll pass it over to, is it Eva?
Thank you very much, Caroline. Okay, ladies, you already said a lot about leadership. It's never easy to come after people when you've said so much already. But I would just say that for me, leadership is about serving. It's about being a good servant. And when you understand that, you will see that everything you do falls into place. And I will also add that leadership is about maintaining emotional productivity. When you know how to handle emotions, how to get people to understand, to feel you at an emotional level, you've already won. So for me, a good leader is someone who can, not only maintain emotional productivity, but also serve. He sees himself or herself as a good servant. And I think there's more to that, but we would need lots of time to talk about that. But just for the sake of answering the question, this is what is very important for me.
So, right, we've got a few comments, and comfort leadership is when you influence someone to be the very best, which I actually believe, because it's all about when you're leading, even when you're leading from your home, you're influencing everyone else to be their very best. And a good leader does that. And Healing Hand says that yes, Eva, a leader is a servant. So we're going to go to the next version. How can we compare traditional leadership and how leadership looks like now? Because leadership has changed so much. With regards to John Maxwell and all of them, they have really great foundations with regards to leadership. But I also feel that leadership has evolved so much to the point where, whilst before leaders were seen to be these people who had to be very composed and everything else. But now we're allowing leaders to be vulnerable. We are allowing leaders to show compassion and to even lead intuitively. We are celebrating that now. So how would we say that traditional leadership and leadership as we're seeing it evolve now differs? What do you think, Ada?
Eva or me? Okay. So now I'm coming as an African and listening to the stories we were told about leaders in the olden times, where traditionally speaking, a leader was like revered and more like a demigod. You kind of find out that there was that stereotype that a leader is supposed to be maybe immune and so strong that he shouldn't engage in emotions or be seen as weak. Just like when you said leaders are now going to be intuitive and vulnerable. At those times, leaders are supposed to be seen as, some rock-based human beings who do not feel emotions, who should be in charge all the time. Like, doesn't even make any sense because you're a leader. I think that's because there's been a misconception of what leadership really is. Leadership does not remove the fact that you are human. It doesn't make you an extraordinary strong person. Like, it doesn't make you not to be, let me just say, humane. So in those traditional aspects of leadership, where we saw even our fathers who were the heads of the family, right now, I don't even use that term anymore because even women have started co-financing and being the major financiers in homes. So, but back in the days when our fathers were like seen as the leaders in the home, there's that, I don't know, like, for example, my cousins, if you visit their homes, once their dad is back, they run into the house, they don't come out, you don't sit in the living room, there's this secret being that is home. So it doesn't even make any sense looking at it right now, how there was a kind of a misnomer to what leadership really meant in the traditional aspect compared to what really it should be. I loved what Caroline said. I love what Eva said about servanthood. I love what Caroline said about character. As a leader, that's why I still love Stedman. Stedman, who's talking about mental leadership, where he says, if you have not been able to understand who you are, what your life purpose is, your visions and your goals, your complete makeup as an individual, you won't be able to lead anyone. And that is what happened in the past, where our people or our men kind of camouflaged into being some kind of hard men. So leadership was given that attribute of, if you're not strong, you can't do it. It doesn't make any sense looking at it right now. A leader can be vulnerable. A leader can share. In fact, if you are not even real, you shouldn't be a leader. If you cannot be vulnerable and actually share in people's pain and also relate with them, if you haven't gone through things that broke you in life, I don't know how you'll be able to like come out and tell someone who's going through difficult times to man up. You can't relate if you have not allowed yourself as a leader to actually become more human. So if the traditional aspect is to be brought to fore, I'll just say that it was all shades of wrong. I'm not saying that they were so bad, but I'm just saying that they gave it a different meaning. Like, you don't want to go into leadership if you are not one hard man, if I'll use that word. So for me, traditional leadership was kind of flawed. And I thank God for the innovations and things that are happening today to show us that a leader can cry. A leader should be able to show vulnerability and also resonate with what other people are saying and let themselves be criticized. It is fine. That is what makes leadership what it is. I pass over to Caroline. I think she's the next person, or Eva.
leadership has evolved so much. And I think the leadership that we saw, or some of us saw growing up, especially if you grew up in Africa, was fear-based leadership. It was more fear-driven rather than rather than having conversations and being told you can't do this or this is how you do things. So it was always driven by fear. So I'm going to ask Caroline the next question because I know her work, and she works with different diverse groups. And what I'm going to ask you is, how can we integrate inclusivity in leadership? Because what we've seen in the past is, and one of the things that we're campaigning so much about, is to see diversity within leadership. How can we have inclusivity within leadership? How do you think we can go about this? Because this is also challenging traditional leadership in a sense.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question, Harriet. First of all, the way I see inclusivity is having, first of all, someone said it, transparency, right? And being able to be vulnerable with other people and accepting of other people's cultures and the norms, the way they believe. All right. A lot of people, in terms of traditional leadership, as you say, is more of the cognitive core beliefs that they hold, that they've been taught from their cultures, right? Therefore, this creates a hindrance of the inclusiveness that should be there within leadership and having that transparency and the cultural diversity. So if I hold core cognitive beliefs of from my learned behavior from my culture, therefore, when I travel to another country or another culture of people, my core beliefs will still stand. So therefore, there will be a barrier from me to have that inclusiveness of leading together as a people, right? Without limiting the diversity of people's way of life, people way of believing, and so forth. So the first thing is, when you're looking for the inclusiveness of leadership, is to sort of limit your core beliefs, your cultural beliefs, not put them to a side completely, but limit, be open as you enter that arena or that environment or that country, and be vulnerable to be able to understand what other people's thought process are, how they understand life, and how they believe that principles of life should be held in terms of inclusiveness, right? And that's the core cognitive beliefs have to be limited in certain environments. You have to be willing to learn, listen, and understand. So I think it's Ida who's coming on next. I'll pass it on to Ida.
Right. So, Eva, I'm going to ask you this because I know of the work that you do with the translation, but I also know the amazing work that you do with the young girls. And one of the things that I'm going to ask you, and with challenging the traditional beliefs as well, how we lead and everything else, would you say that there's a big difference between bossing versus leading? Because what we see in a lot of organizations even is bossing. It's not really leading. So how are you able to do this with the young women?
Fantastic. Thank you for that question. Okay, so first of all, I would like just to people to understand what I see as a traditional leader. I think that a traditional leader, as you said earlier, uses fear, to be listened to or to get people done, to get things done, you see. And he also draws that relationship of, the parent role and the child role, so then your traditional leader will be seen as the parent, while everyone is leading will be seen as a child. So already you see there is a big discrepancy, a big, like a big gap between the two, you see. Now, the other thing also is that the traditional leader would use a blame thing, just so that every choice he makes or she makes, every decision he or she takes, he or she will not take full responsibility for it, and they will just shift the blame to someone else. So you see that when we go from that kind of traditional leadership to what I call now this dynamic leadership that we have today, we have to change the perceptions. We have to change our ways. We have to make a complete paradigm shift, because a leader nowadays has to adapt. A leader has to lead with, like with intuition. Like you have to be intuitive. To listen to your emotions. You have to listen to what people feel. You have to lead knowing that people will respect you and understand what you want and will do what you say, not because they feel you, but because you walk the walk, you talk the talk, and because you lead by example. You see, so I think that the leader today, and that's what I'm using now, has a big responsibility, because one, you can't be a leader if you don't take good care of yourself. That's number one. Because, and I've learned that from experience, being an entrepreneur, founder of a company, and being a co-founder and executive director of a nonprofit organization. And being a mom, I've got 3 kids, I'm married. So I'm also a mother, I'm a daughter, I am a wife. So you see, all those roles take a lot from us. So me as a leader, I need to take good care of myself if I want to lead people. Because if I don't take care of myself, I can't expect other people to do the same, you see. And I can't tell them, no, but take care of yourself while I look like a mess. So I think it starts with us, and this is very important. The other thing is our life blueprint. Like, you can't be a leader if you don't know who you are, if you don't know where you come from, if you don't know what is your purpose, if you don't know how to have an impact at cellular level. And I mean, every encounter you have, every conversation you have must give something extraordinary to the person you are talking to. There must be an exchange. There must be something that motivates, each person involved in that conversation to give their best. And that's how I lead. Like I believe in making every encounter extraordinary, and I use my faith a lot. So I believe in listening to my inner voice and to doing what I feel is the right thing. I believe in being vulnerable, like Caroline and Ada says. I believe in being transparent. I believe that a leader is someone who knows how to use all those things and make a strong impact in the people they are working with. So they break, that hierarchical structure where you've got the leader at the top and you've got the people you rule at the bottom. I don't think that today, with COVID-19, with everything that is happening, the unemployment rate, with all the economic problems now, the slow economy, you can't be a leader as leaders used to be. You will not get the results that you want. You need to push people to apply themselves, to their task without you having to be behind them. Look at us today. We are working from home. How do you make sure that your employees are really working? Now it's a matter of trust, and trust is something that a leader needs to build. When people feel comfortable, feel that they can relate, feel that they are being respected, feel that they are being understood at cellular level, they will give 200% to the task. And that's how I lead. And I think that this is very important for a leader. That's why I was talking about emotional productivity. You see, and I come back to fear. A leader has to use love, because fear will only give birth to stress, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, illnesses, and everything, while love will bring in passion, happiness, joy, excitement, and everything. So I think today we can't rely on traditional ways, traditional leadership that were used on hierarchical structures, on patriarchal thoughts, on lack of inclusiveness. All those things have to change. We have to adapt, and adapting is going to that dynamic leadership.
Thank you, Eva. We have to kind of like move on, and I'm going to link this to because I looked through some of the questions that we received, and the next question kind of like links into some of the things that we were meant to discuss anyway, and that's the imposter syndrome. I'm going to ask Caroline to give us her thoughts and how she feels, because she has a psychological background, and this is why I'm picking on you, Caroline, right? Because this is more of a psychological aspect, and then all of us are going to come up and talk about our experiences. So I want us to talk about the imposter syndrome. How do women overcome, first of all, what is the imposter syndrome? How do women overcome this in imposter syndrome, and how does this affect how women are placed into leadership, or does this come into play, and does it affect women going for leadership positions or being chosen for those leadership positions?
Caroline, you're still muted.
Hello, can you hear me now? Fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much, Harriet, for that question. Imposter syndrome, simply put in a nutshell, as I was saying before, is it's like someone believing they achieved what they achieved through fraud and by chance. Okay, and that it's just happens out of sheer luck, right? And once you think and believe like that, it means that you don't feel like you're competent enough to achieve all the things that you have achieved in life, right? And so in regards to the imposter syndrome, when it comes to leadership, some people confuse their potential to be the leaders, to be related to leadership, and their gift. There's a difference between having the potential to lead, right, and also having that gift. Now, if you have imposter syndrome and you have a gift at the same time, right, and you have those thought process of, oh, this is not me, I never achieved this, this is not what I am supposed to be doing. But because it's a gift that's given to you, sometimes you might abuse it. Now, you might have the potential, right, of the potential of being a leader with your gift, but because you have self-doubt in terms of what you have naturally been gifted with, it means that that imposter syndrome of you being what you can be, right, above you thinking that you can't be that because you don't appreciate it. It's something that's naturally given to you. So therefore, it will never aspire to your full potential of what you need to be. You see, oh, I've obtained this through fraudulent means. I was given to it. I'm born into it. Some people are inherited things that they are with, right? Therefore, in terms of taking in on leadership role, hence why it says you must be able to have the identity, self-identity. And I believe, is it Ada was talking about Stedman, right? The type of love that you have with yourself and the type of love that you have with your gift that is naturally given to you, because some things are learned, they're not given, right? And some things are just potential. You learn a craft at uni or in any learning environment. So therefore, because I learned it, but the way I use what I've learned, right, you might be saying, oh, I got this out of just sheer luck, It wasn't me. I was just lucky to graduate university. It wasn't me. So therefore, you might not have the competence to go out on the field to look for that what you studied in, or to lead in that what you studied in, because you believe that it's a means of just sheer luck. But how do we then get over that? Is once again through self-identifying what your gift is. And because some people have acquired how can I say, they've acquired professions through their parents encouraging them to be, oh, you have to be a lawyer, you have to be a doctor, but that's not what I want to be. So it's just sheer luck that I became a doctor. So this is through fraudulent. This is not who I am. What I want to be is different. So I want to, maybe I'm talented in music. Although I studied to be a doctor, this is sheer luck. I'm imposting in this position, right? Now, my gift is music, and I'll excel in leading in that department. You understand? And so it takes you knowing who you are, your self-identity, and not having the confinements of people's beliefs and the society putting you through the boxes of what they want you to be, and at what pace you should go to achieve these things that they want you to be, right? So it's about self-love and identity, but obviously one has to be groomed into nurturing them to lead that stage. And I believe you can take, I can pass it over to someone else now.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Ada, I just want you to, because you're the fear strategist, and you deal with overcoming fears and all of that. How do you help women who are probably struggling with imposter syndrome, or because sometimes it comes in disguised as fear, right? How do you help women overcome this in what you do?
Thank you, Harriet. So let me first of all share my own story. For imposter syndrome, I think the closest I've ever been to imposting is having some false sense of humility, where someone tells you you did a very great job, wow, that project was really amazing, and you're like, it wasn't really, there was really nothing there. Like having that false sense of humility that you do not want to accept the glory or the praise for some marvelous thing you did just to appear humble. So, I never really understood that was what I was doing until I got into NLP, that's linguistic practitioning, and I'm like, wow. And I started reading about psychology and imposter syndrome. I'm like, are you kidding me? Why couldn't they just say, oh, yes, thank you. Oh, that was amazing. Yeah, I did a good job. And I think it's like she said, there's some wiring in our brains. It's a cognitive thing where we have grown up to think that if you accept praises for something you did, it means you're not humble. And I have to start, rewiring my brains, understand that it's okay for people to praise me. And I'm like, oh, thank you. I will do great. Next time I'll do greater. So I think the closest I've been or come to imposting and having that syndrome is that false sense of humility. Now, coming to the question you asked, yes, a couple of women have actually, reached out if they're not maybe going through some struggling and suicidal thoughts because of the kind of person they married. Is either because the kind of job they are doing is not fulfilling. And like Caroline said, in fact, when Caroline was explaining this, especially from the occupation and career aspect, I'm like, yeah, this will also help me, because it's like they're actually imposting. And I have someone who I had to coach. She was into real estate. I think she studied mass communication or something. So she constantly tries to understand what she's doing in the real estate world. And she keeps saying, I can't even make sales. Truly, this is overwhelming. They pay me on commission basis. I can't even, I may not be able to feed my family tomorrow. I can't pay my rent. I've not been able to make any sales or close deals and all that. And the first thing I asked was, how self-aware are you? I understand that maybe I should have gone through imposter syndrome, but I deal with fear. So let me say this disguised as fear. So the first question is, are you really self-aware? Like, do you know what you have? Do you know you can be able to sell a house to me without doubting yourself. The first thing is that you're letting your self-doubt actually creep in and make a mess of any kind of progress you're going to make. So you have wired your brain over time that your subconscious mind actually will not even let you progress. In fact, when you sleep and wake up, the first thing your mind tells you is you're going to fail today. You cannot make any sales because you have kept wiring your brain. And cells that wire together, they fire together, they wake you up every morning to remind you of what a failure you are. You can't even have that stamina to go talk to someone. So I'm like, first of all, we have to deal with self-doubt, negative self-talks you give yourself. All these things are part of the things that are actually pushing you not to be able to make any sales because you do not see yourself as able to make those sales. Even when you want to, your brain has so much, or your mind and subconscious mind have so much built on your inadequacies of what you have said to yourself and restructured your brain that you can't even make those things happen, even when you want to. So I believe people, the women I've dealt with, most times what I do is, first of all, let's declutter, they have taken in a lot. They have taken in a lot, both from traditional, both from present world. They have actually built in a lot of limiting self-beliefs on themselves that there is no how they can progress. So for me, aligning this with imposter syndrome, for me, is simple. It's more like they do not see that they can actually flourish because they have kept believing over time that, there's some sort of fraud here. I can't do this. This is not me. So first of all, I try to declutter, try to start reprogramming their minds through, different things like shifting the frame, trying to tell them to see what the problem really is exactly. Not that you are inadequate, but because you have over time wired your brain to believe you are. And that's why you are thinking you cannot, believe or do something different. Just like me, I've wired myself so much that I feel there's no reason why I should take praise for something I've done. But until I found out that is a psychological problem where you need to keep working on it. Once they say, hey, I did a great job, accept it wholeheartedly. Wow, I did. And if you give me the next one, I'm going to do even amazing. So I think that is what we need to start doing so that we can start eroding and removing this imposter syndrome. And let's own what we have been able to achieve. Even if we found ourselves in the wrong profession, don't limit yourself by thinking thoughts of negativity all the time that I don't know what I'm doing here. Own the fact that you made the mistake to appear there in the first place. And please run with whatever it brings and keep developing and building on it. And you see yourself making headway again. We face these issues all the time, but we don't let them limit us. Okay. Pass it to the next person.
Thank you so much, Caroline and Ada. It's amazing how everything that you've said really resonates also with the women that I work with. But then one of the things that I would love to point out is, I think as women and as live for perfection, and what we forget is that leadership is not for perfection. It's ever growing, it's ever evolving, and we're not leading perfect people either. So you're imperfect, leading imperfect people with no defined way of leadership, because when you're dealing with different personalities and characters, you have to lead all of them with regards to how they are and where they are. So there cannot be no perfection in such a thing. It just does not exist. So I think one of the words that as women we need to get rid of is the word perfect, because it does not exist. Every single thing is flawed. We are flawed human beings, and that's just how we were meant to be. So I'm going to go to the next question, and this is going to be very loaded because it's going to be talking about your experiences as well, but it also links in to the rest of the questions. I tried to avoid so much to go into the questions and let it all flow and have you speak about your experiences as well, because it's part of how you inspire someone else as leaders. So the next question is more about your journey in leadership and the things that you've had to overcome. I think with regards to our journeys with leadership, one of the things that I personally have had to do and realize that I have to continuously do is to be self-aware. And this means that I have to keep checking myself. This means that when emotions come up, I don't dismiss the emotions. I look at the emotions and I figure out or try to find out where the emotions are coming from and where they are leading me to without judgment. So and this helps me to be a better individual and not to overreact and to grow in areas of emotional intelligence. So if all of you, I'll start with Eva. I want all of you to just kind of like tell me about your, you know, your leadership journey, and like in a short snippet, right? Because we've only got a few minutes left. So if you could just tell us a bit about your leadership journey and kind of like the hurdles that you've had to overcome. And I'll start with Eva, and then we'll go to Ada, and then we'll finish off with Caroline.
All right, thank you, Ariette. Very loaded indeed. Okay, so I think I will just start with where I come from. So usually I'm from Gabon, but I live in South Africa, Pretoria. And I've not been the leader I am now all my life, because I started on a very difficult path. I was a teen mom. I got my first child when I was 14. And believe me, it was very, very hard. It was so challenging at times. I, I actually tried to commit suicide. And I thought that my life was done, that I was done, that there was nothing I was going to do with my life. And it took faith. Actually, it took faith to take me from where I was to where I am now. And along the journey, you know, God put people on my road. And each person I met taught me something about myself. And each experience that I went through taught me something about myself. And slowly but surely, I started forgiving myself, because I think that the hardest thing for anyone is to forgive yourself for anything that happened in your life. Most of us, we've got stuff that happened in the past, and many do not manage. They go to their grave not having the strength or the courage to forgive themselves, and this is a pity, because like Ariette said earlier, we are not perfect, and that's what we are trying to be. We are striving to perfection, but I don't know if in this world we can reach perfection. So I think that all along my journey, you know, with each person I encountered, with each experience I went through, with each time I fell and got back on my feet, with each win and each failure, I learned, first of all, to forgive myself. I learned who Eva is. I learned that I deserve love. I learned that my scars, emotional and physical scars, are not something negative. It's actually something that speaks volume, because they show me that I am someone who has greatness within her, that I am made in God's image, and therefore I can do extraordinary things in my life. I learned that from experience, from what I went through, from my broken past, that something amazing could be made out of it, that it could give life to something, that it could give birth to something. And using my past as, you see, like my platform, I made something beautiful out of my life. And like you said, Ariette, I learned to live. You see, people, sometimes you wake up in the morning, you are all tired and stuff, and you start complaining about things. And then we forget that, wait a minute, I'm alive. I'm alive. I am alive. And I'm being conscious about that life every single minute of my life. And I try to use everything to make something beautiful. That's why I believe that empowering other people, and in my case, young girls, restoring one life, one girl at a time, makes a big difference. Because I'm using everything God gave me. I'm using everything I went through to make a difference. And everything I went through, all the people in my life, bad and good, and Ariette, you are one of the goods. And I think Caroline and Ada are now one of the goods as well. I'm so happy and blessed to meet you. But I think all those people, all of them have, like a role to play in your life. And it's up to each one of us to understand What is that role? Why was that person there? And that's where self-consciousness is very important, because when you are aware, you see the signs and you learn from everyone, everything, every failure, every win, and you become a better person. And I will use you become, because I think that the word becoming is loaded. You become who you are supposed to be. So I don't know, Harriet, I got so excited. I don't know if I answered your question. But yeah, I think I will stop there because I think we don't have much time. But I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Eva. You did. We'll go to Ada.
Wow, Eva, wow. I'm so glad I connected with you and Caroline. Thank you, Harriet, for this platform. One more thing Eva will do is I'm going to reach out to you and Caroline too. Eva, I'm writing a story on women, the woman within. I'm trying to encourage, went through certain hard times that I'm trying to get a story of. Let me not go down there, but I just know that women that have gone through a lot need to speak more, because we have a million and billion of woman who is going through the exact same thing you went through, that needs to read from you and see that, see, if she did it, then I can emerge, and that the woman within is really stronger. And I'm really sorry for all you had to go through as a child, because 14, you were still a child, you were not ready to vote, but it all happened, and really now, look at you, we are connected. Wow, our stories really did not define us, and things that happened did not define us. So coming to what leadership and the strides and the things I've faced, luckily for me, I grew up in a home where my parents were educated, and my dad being an attorney, kind of had a library of books. I started reading, I can't remember how old I was, but I know I started reading quite early, and my dad submerged me into Shakespeare. Oh, I started with Salasmana at primary 5. That was 9 years or thereabouts, and I started reading, and he made sure we traveled a lot. Every holiday we were going somewhere. I traveled almost everywhere in Nigeria, maybe just the far north, but almost every state. And so kind of my awareness got awakened early. So I became the leader early. From home, I'm the third child, the first girl. I have 2 boys before me. So I was more of a tomboyish kind of person. I'm still a girl. My mom won't let me be, like, you have to be feminine, right? So, and I'm the only girl she had then after 5 years. And I could engage my brothers in discourse and arguments, like, it doesn't happen. I'm a lawyer now, but that doesn't mean that was what propelled me. I just knew I wanted to be that. So I have always known that there was something about me that will get to the Congress tomorrow. Let me not talk about that. But I have done leadership even from primary school, secondary school, and university, where I was a student union vice president in my school. But really, it didn't end well for me too, because they couldn't deal with me. You guys, leadership is hard and politics is dirty. In fact, I got so much in trouble speaking out and trying to cross my vice chancellor and trying to affirm that the students have rights and blah, blah, blah. I would have been expelled from school. I faced a lot of panels that was suspended from the union. I almost missed my exams. Like, I think I've just been that vocal person who you just can't intimidate. I don't care who you are. The policeman will tell me, is that how you talk to your husband? I'll say, he's not like you now. So I can't talk, you're not behaving like him. You know, as in, there's always that intimidation trying to make women feel you can't lead and all that. So technically, I've been in leadership to, lead other people, but inwardly, I've also been there leading myself. So I'm just grateful that, there was a different path that maybe the universe opened up for me. And I have learned a lot. Floating a non-profit back in Nigeria, I've also learned in leadership. I've learned that you have to be open to criticisms. Oh my God, sometimes people will call me on the phone. Maybe my board members, I present something and they rubbish it, like, this cannot fly. If you do not understand that, you should allow them to take decisions. That's why you consider the board. The trustees have the right to take. So as in, I had to learn to start letting ego drop. That's one thing leadership taught me. And then also had to learn that in leadership, you fight and know when to retreat when it gets out of hand. So for me, my leadership story won't be complete if I do not say that I've been learning and improving and developing all the time. So that's my short story on what leadership has been for me so far.
Caroline, we're on to you now.
All right. Oh my God. Where can I start? Oh my days, ladies, your stories are so wonderful. It's amazing how leadership is built up. It's a process in order to get to progression. My story is really, I grew up here. Um, from the age of 5, I came here. I'm now in my late 30s. But me, from school days, I was always being seen as a leader. I never knew that I was a leader. Obviously, at that young age, you don't really know. But cut the long story short, being in a girl gang, right? When I was younger, I was in a girl gang, and knowing that all girl gangs are groomed by men, right? And so you always have to um, be assertive more so. You always have to be assertive. You always have to have courage, and you always have to have character in terms of those kind of experiences that I faced in my childhood days, being in a gang, right? And also me being into like representing people in court. I'm sure Ada will know that this is a mostly men's arena. You definitely have to be assertive. You definitely have to show the men, even now in my own businesses that I run and the organizations and the motivational speaking that I do and the speaking. When you enter a room and there is a men there that are mostly taking lead, you as a woman leader, you always have to have that self-belief, that assertive, because they'll always overpower you because they think, what does she know? More so subconsciously, right? I've entered rooms like, for example, with Sadiq Khan, the mayor's office and all that, that I never believed I would be going into those rooms, right? Representing people with a whole panel of lords, right? In the courtroom. And so you feel intimidated as a woman, right? To take on that platform. And you definitely must prepare yourself as you enter into leadership, right? About 2 years ago, I was given a title to be the youth leader for Buganda Kingdom in Uganda for my country, right? I never grew up in Africa. So the people that were the Ugandan youth that grew up in Africa challenged that position for me because they're like, she never grew up there. What does she know? But it's because of the tools and the assertiveness and the fact I self-believed myself. And I also knew my identity due simply because of how my mother grew me up. I can speak my language. I never grew up there, but because my mom made it an imperative thing in our household, and I watched her wake up early mornings and be consistent in everything that she does, right? In regards, for us, you'll have to wake up 5 in the morning, do the house chores and all of that. Every character that you show your children, right, in later life, they will sort of assimilate to it or take it up in some way or form or the other. And so those things that, when I got to a point where I wrote my book, Challenges of Identity, a Psychological Perspective, is on Amazon. I'm writing my second book, Digital Identity, a Social Perspective and a Business Perspective. These books, I've written them because I'm going through the challenges of my identities, right? The identities that we hold in different environments, and how can I emotionally control these identity, emotional control, intelligence, letting go of cognitive core beliefs, right? These are all the tools that shape leaderships, right, around us, and they've made me who I am. So my struggle is made me who I am, right? You've had to lose certain things, and you have to lose certain characters. Because when I was younger, I felt like I can be anything, I can do anything in regards to the bad side of things, right? I could go on the street and cuss out a woman, an old woman, and nothing will happen to me. Why? Because I felt like I got a backing of the people that was behind me. But no, when all is said and done, you always by yourself, and you have to sit by yourself and lead yourself, like what Eva was saying, the self-leadership. And so, and knowing that your character is what will bring you to the pedestal that you want people to see you, and the self-presentation that you present to people, it is important. Hence the imposter syndrome, the topic that I was talking about before, is that you you have to love the self and know who you are, the identity. Before, I didn't love my culture, but I do now. When I was younger, in my late adulthood, I thought I call myself, I'm Jamaican. African people are not really good, they malnutrition. But the more I traveled back to my own country, my African continent, the more I saw actually what they show on TV is not what it is. There's lots of nice leaders, business in leaderships, women in business, and they're in leading businesses, and obviously the climate is nice. We are what we are, and because of what not knowing at the moment is what brings us to self-doubt. But you know, the challenges that I've had with leadership is just simply through more so my identity, and more so through the male dominated industries that we might go into. But I wouldn't, now that I know how to strategize with them. So that is me. And I hope like all the women here on this platform do continue to love yourself and know the self identity and also the character, so that we are pushing it to the next generation. There's a saying that says, show me a woman and I'll show you civilization, because civilization begins from the women, from what we are. So we're leading in our household because we raise the children, as I think Eva said, right? That is what leads us to the next generation. Civilization begins from the women, from what we are. So we're leading in our household because we raise the children, as I think Eva said, right? That is what leads to the next generation.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Thank you so much, Eva. And Ada has had to run off because I think she's got caught. That's what happens when you're a woman in leadership. You have to juggle, right? I just want to thank both of you for making time to be here and everything else. Caroline is an amazing woman. She's got her book out. We've got the information on there. And also she's doing an event. We've got the information there as well. Eva, phenomenal woman. She's doing an entrepreneur challenge, which she's finished, but I'm sure she's up to something else at the moment. She's always up to so much stuff. I just want to kind of like just push this forward, because you know, when we come here, we have so much that we want to share, but, you know, it's only an hour and everyone's got so many diverse perspectives. But one thing to learn is that from everyone's journey that you've listened to, everyone's had an insane journey. No one really gets there. No one gets there in an easy way. No one really makes it easy. Leadership is not easy. It looks easy, because the people carry it well. You know, it's kind of like you're carrying people within you, and it's not easy. So the thing to kind of like remember is, on your journey to leadership, it's not just, you know, you might never have that massive influence, but you do have influence wherever you are, and it's about influencing and bringing out the best in people. It's bringing out the best in the next person, bringing out the best in your child, bringing out the best in everyone else, bringing the best in people around you. And also, because leadership is not that straightforward, it's about being compassionate. It's about being, you know, having empathy. It's about loving yourself, knowing yourself. It's about hearing yourself. It's about so much. And I'm so grateful. I'm so happy that all of the ladies have been able to kind of like just touch on each and every single aspect of that, because to be all rounded, none of us has the complete picture. So as we round up, I just want to thank all of you for joining us today, and I just want to say that you can get in touch with the ladies. They're amazing. They will get in touch back. And also, we have our Women in Leadership Conference coming up. Please go and have a look. I'm sure you'll find something there for yourself. We're workshops. You do not have money to pay for it. We have some tickets which have been sponsored, so you can be able to you can be able to have sponsorship. And also, I think Eva wants to say something. both ladies had to pop up because they have to go back to work. They are lawyers. One is criminology, the other one, she has to go to court and help people out. That's just how life is. Eva is going to say one last thing and then we will wrap up. Yep. Eva?
I just wanted to leave people with saying that I always share with everyone. I just want to say that we all have a past, but how it influences our present and our future is up to us. And I think that it speaks volume for leaders nowadays. And yeah, so it was a pleasure for me to be on this platform. And I want to really thank you for having me and for doing the amazing work that you do. I love collaborating with you. You're just amazing.
Thank you so much, Eva. Thank you guys for watching this. Please share the video and let us know what other topics that you want us to discuss. It looks like we might have to have all the panelists again because we haven't exhausted the questions that we received. There's so many questions that came through, and thank you so much for everyone who sent in the questions. I appreciate you all so much, and thank you so much for supporting this platform. Do let us know what you want to talk about, and we will try and really include it in there. So enjoy the rest of your day, and we love you so much. Yeah, bye.